There is a terrifying experiment from the Max Planck Institute that completely breaks the concept of free will, and it is going to keep you up at night. Researchers put people in an fMRI machine and gave them a simple choice: to press a button with their left hand or their right hand. The subjects watched a screen and noted the exact moment they made the decision. But here is the glitch in the matrix. The brain scanners saw the decision happen 7 full seconds before the person consciously realized they had made a choice. 7 seconds. That is an eternity in neurological time. It means that by the time you think, "I'm going to choose the left button," your brain had already locked in that command 7 seconds ago. You aren't the one playing the video game. You are the character on the screen reacting to inputs that happened while you were buffering. Imagine playing a high-stakes shooter game online, but your controller has a 7-second lag. You see an enemy, you smash the trigger, but on the server, you're already dead. That is your life. That is your conscious mind. We walk around believing we are logical, rational operators behind the steering wheel, analyzing data and making smart choices about who to date, what to buy, or what career to pursue. But neuroscience is screaming that we are wrong. You are not the driver of the car. You are the passenger in the back seat watching the GPS and taking credit for the route the car is already taking. The driver is your limbic system, your ancient animal brain, and it is driving based on programming that is millions of years old. If you don't understand this lag, you are an NPC. You are a non-player character running a scripted loop that you didn't write. But if you can hack the 7-second gap, if you can understand the code running in that silence before the conscious thought hits, you stop being the passenger. You climb into the driver's seat. By the end of this hour, we are going to eliminate the lag. We are going to look at the invisible psychological forces that are hacking your brain every single day, and we are going to give you the cheat codes to rewrite the script. The first thing you have to accept is that logic is a lie. We love to think we are rational. You buy a car and you tell your friends it was for the gas mileage or the safety rating. That is your conscious brain making up a story to comfort you. The truth is your limbic system bought that car 7 seconds earlier because it signaled status to your tribe or because the leather smell triggered a memory of safety from your childhood. We don't make decisions based on facts. We make decisions based on emotion, and then we use logic to justify what we already did. This is why you cannot win an argument on the internet with statistics. You are throwing logic at a survival brain that doesn't speak that language. To master this, you need to understand the 3 operating systems competing for control of your controller. First, you have the survival brain. This is the lizard brain. It only cares about keeping you alive right now. It doesn't care about your 10-year plan or your crypto portfolio. It cares about immediate threats. When you freeze up during a public speech or get defensive when your boss gives you mild feedback, that is the survival brain hijacking the controls because it thinks social rejection is the same thing as being eaten by a tiger. It is outdated hardware running on modern software. Then you have the social brain. We are tribal animals. For 100,000 years, being kicked out of the tribe meant death. So your social brain is constantly scanning the room asking, "Do they like me?" And, "What do I need to do to stay in the group?" This is why you buy clothes you can't afford and laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You aren't being fake. You are being biological. Finally, you have the meaning-making brain. This is the spin doctor. This is the part of you that hates randomness. If you get fired, your meaning-making brain immediately starts writing a story about how it was meant to be or how the boss was a jerk, just to protect your ego from the chaos of reality. Now that you know the hardware, let's talk about the software hacks. There are 6 invisible forces that bypass your conscious firewall and trigger that 7-second decision loop before you even blink. These are the buttons that marketers, politicians, and toxic ex-partners push to control you. The first and most powerful one is social proof. We are programmed to copy the herd. If you are walking down the street and see 50 people looking up at the sky, you will look up before you even think about it. You can't help it. This is why clubs create fake lines outside when the place is empty inside. They are hacking your social brain. They are manufacturing a reality that says this is where the tribe is, so this is where you need to be. The second glitch is scarcity. Your survival brain is terrified of missing out on resources. When a website says, "Only 2 items left in stock," your logic goes out the window. You don't ask if you need the item. You only care that you might lose the chance to get it. The pain of losing is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining. If I give you $100, you feel good. If I take $100 from you, you feel terrible. Scarcity triggers that loss aversion. It creates artificial urgency that forces the survival brain to grab the wheel and slam on the gas. Then there is the authority hack. We are hardwired to follow the leader because in the wild, disobeying the alpha meant you got left behind. Today, this means we blindly trust people in white lab coats or expensive suits. We turn off our critical thinking when someone speaks with a deep voice and confident tonality. This is dangerous. It explains why smart people join cults and why entire companies follow incompetent CEOs off a cliff. The brain sees the status symbol and assumes competence. The language detected is English. If you aren't watching for this, you will follow confident idiots simply because their biology hacks yours. You also need to watch out for reciprocity. This is the psychological debt. If I buy you a coffee, your brain instantly marks a debt in your ledger. You feel an itch, a physical need to pay me back or do something nice for me. Salespeople weaponize this. That is why they give you free samples. They aren't being nice. They are loading a virus into your reciprocity code so that when they ask for the sale, your brain feels obligated to say yes just to clear the debt. But the scariest part of this lag is that your body betrays you before you speak. While your conscious mind is trying to come up with a lie, your body has already told the truth. This is called the hidden language of micro-expressions. Your face has over 40 muscles and they fire automatically based on your limbic system. A flash of anger or a micro-sneer of contempt lasts for 1/15 of a second. It is too fast for the conscious mind to control, but if you know what to look for, it is like reading someone's mind. When someone is lying to you, their body goes to war with their words. They might say they are confident, but their shoulders hunch and they touch their neck. That neck touching is a self-soothing gesture. It is the adult equivalent of sucking your thumb. It means their survival brain feels threatened. If you see someone's vocal pitch go up or they start breathing from their chest instead of their diaphragm, they are in fight or flight mode regardless of how calm they try to act. You need to stop listening to the words people say and start watching the 7-second lag playing out on their faces. So how do you defend yourself? How do you stop being a glitchy non-player character? You need to build a firewall against manipulation. The most common attack you will face is artificial urgency. A manipulator will always try to force you to decide right now because they know that if you take time, your logical brain will catch up to the 7-second lag. They say things like this offer expires tonight or I need an answer now. Your defense is the 24-hour rule. You never make a major decision under pressure. Real opportunities do not vanish in a day. Manipulative traps do. By waiting 24 hours, you let the dopamine and cortisol flush out of your system so you can see the matrix for what it is. You also have to watch out for the guilt trap. This is when someone weaponizes reciprocity or empathy against you. They act like you owe them because they did something you never asked for. Or they act hurt when you set a boundary. This is a direct attack on your social brain. They are trying to trigger your fear of being a bad tribe member. You have to realize that you are not responsible for other people's emotional reactions to your boundaries. That is their internal script running, not yours. But defense is only half the game. You want to win. To do that, you have to reprogram your own code through habits. Most people try to change their life using willpower. That is a fool's game. Willpower is a battery and it runs out. Habits are the autopilot. Your brain loves habits because they save energy. It wants to automate everything. To change your behavior, you have to hack the habit loop. Every habit has a cue, a routine, and a reward. Most people focus on the behavior, the routine. I want to go to the gym, but they ignore the cue and the reward. If you want to hack your brain, you design the cue. You put your running shoes next to your coffee machine. You make the trigger unavoidable. Then you make the routine stupidly easy. Do not commit to an hour workout. Commit to putting on your shoes. That is it. You are lowering the friction so your survival brain doesn't freak out about the effort. Then you hack the reward. You need an immediate dopamine hit. The long-term health benefit is too abstract for your lizard brain. You need to feel good now. Ultimately, this comes down to strategic awareness. You have to walk through life watching the lag. When you feel a surge of anger, you stop and ask, is this me or is this my programming? When you feel the urge to buy something, you ask, is this desire real or is it a scarcity hack? When someone tries to pressure you, you look for the glitch in their presentation. This is what it means to be awake. Most people are sleepwalking, reacting to triggers they don't see, controlled by forces they don't understand. But you are different now. You see the 7-second gap. You know the controller has a lag. And because you see it, you can account for it. You can anticipate the delay. You can stop reacting and start responding. Stop being the passenger justifying the route on the global positioning system. Grab the wheel. Drive the car. The game is yours to play. Ever feel like you are just watching your life happen in third person? You walk into a room and suddenly forget why you are there. You open your phone to check the time and look up 40 minutes later having accomplished absolutely nothing. You tell yourself you are going to eat healthy, save money, and text that toxic ex goodbye. But then you find yourself eating the pizza, buying the shoes, and sending that late-night text anyway. We joke about this on the internet. We call it acting like a non-player character or a non-player character. We laugh about being caught in a simulation or having a glitch in the matrix. But what if I told you that feeling is not a joke? What if I told you that you actually are being controlled by code you did not write? The truth is terrifying, but you need to hear it. You are not the main character you think you are. You are a biological machine running ancient software in a modern world, and that software is currently throwing up a massive error message that is ruining your life. We need to talk about the caveman.exe error. Everything you think you know about your own free will is backwards. We tell ourselves we are logical creatures. We think we look at the facts, weigh the pros and cons, and then make a rational decision. But neuroscience has revealed something that should scare you. Brain imaging technology shows that your brain makes a decision up to 7 seconds before your conscious mind is even aware of it. Let that sink in for a moment. 7 seconds. That means the part of you that thinks it is in charge, that rational voice in your head, is actually just a press secretary. It is not the president making the choices. It is just the guy standing at the podium 7 seconds later, making up a story to justify a decision that was already made by a part of your brain you cannot even feel. You are not making choices. You are creating justifications for choices that were already made for you by invisible forces. And if you do not understand these forces, you are going to spend the rest of your life as a puppet, dancing on strings you cannot see, wondering why you keep doing things you know you shouldn't do. To take back control, we have to pop the hood and look at the engine. We have to look at the source code. The problem is that your hardware is modern, but your software is prehistoric. You are walking around with a smartphone in your pocket and access to infinite information, but your internal operating system was designed for the savannas of Africa 50,000 years ago. This mismatch is what I call the caveman.exe error. Your brain was not designed for happiness. It was not designed for the stock market, for dating apps, or for the 9-to-5 grind. Your brain was designed for one thing and one thing only: survival. Because of this outdated programming, there are 3 specific puppet masters pulling your strings right now. These are the 3 unseen forces from the source material that dictate your reality. If you don't name them, you can't beat them. The first puppet master is the survival brain. This is the oldest, most primitive part of you. It lives in the limbic system, and it does not care about your career goals or your six-pack abs. It cares about not getting eaten by a lion. Its only job is to scan for threats and keep you safe. But here is the glitch. In the modern world, there are no lions. So your survival brain gets confused. It starts treating an angry email from your boss, a weird look from a stranger, or a dipping bank account balance as a life or death threat. When you feel that tightness in your chest because you have to give a public speech, that is your survival brain hijacking your body. It is flooding you with cortisol and adrenaline because it thinks eyes on you means you are about to be attacked. It screams at you to stay in the comfort zone because comfort equals safety and the unknown equals death. This is why you stay in a job you hate. This is why you don't start that business. Your logical mind knows you should leave, but your survival brain is gripping the steering wheel, screaming that the unknown is dangerous. It prioritizes immediate safety over future success every single time. It is not stupid. It is just outdated. The second puppet master is the social brain. This one is even trickier. We evolved as tribal creatures. 50,000 years ago, if you were kicked out of the tribe, you didn't just get lonely. You died. You starved or you were eaten. So your brain developed a deep, agonizing fear of social rejection that acts almost exactly like physical pain. This is why we have the invisible force of social proof. We are biologically hardwired to look at what others are doing to figure out how to survive. When you see a line outside a nightclub, you want to get in, even if the club is empty inside. That is your social brain assuming the tribe knows something you don't. This is why you buy clothes you can't afford to impress people you don't like. You aren't being materialistic. You are trying to signal status to the tribe so they don't leave you behind to be eaten by wolves. The social brain is constantly scanning for opportunities to increase status and belonging. It explains why peer pressure works on 40-year-old accountants just as well as it works on teenagers. If everyone else is doing it, your social brain assumes it is the safe thing to do. It would rather be wrong with the group than right all by itself. This is why we conform. This is why we don't speak up in meetings. It is not cowardice. It is a biological safety mechanism gone wrong. Then we have the third puppet master, the meaning-making brain. This is the narrator. Humans cannot handle chaos. We are allergic to uncertainty and randomness. We need a story to make sense of the world. So your brain is constantly filtering reality, deleting information that doesn't fit your story, and hallucinating information that does. This is where things like confirmation bias come from. If you believe you are unlovable, your meaning-making brain will actually scan your environment for evidence that people hate you, and it will delete or ignore compliments and love. It creates a self-fulfilling prophecy not because it hates you, but because it wants to be right. It wants the world to be predictable. Think about the last time someone didn't text you back immediately. Your meaning-making brain didn't say, maybe they are busy. No, it immediately spun a tragedy. It told you they are losing interest, they are talking to someone else, you said something stupid, and you are going to die alone. It created a hallucination to fill the curiosity gap because certainty, even painful certainty, feels safer to the brain than not knowing. You are literally making up ghost stories and then scaring yourself with them. Now, let's look at how these three puppet masters ruin your life in the real world. Let's talk about doom scrolling. You know the feeling. It is 2 in the morning. You are tired. You want to sleep, but you cannot stop swiping. You are watching videos of disasters, political arguments, and people shouting at each other. You think you are just addicted to your phone, but you are not. You are caught in a loop between your survival brain and your meaning-making brain. Your survival brain is scanning for threats. It thinks the negative news is a predator it needs to keep an eye on. It feels unsafe to look away because if you look away, the lion might get you. Meanwhile, your meaning-making brain is trying to find a pattern in the chaos. It is looking for an answer that will make the anxiety stop. But the algorithm is designed to never give you that answer. It just feeds you more threats. So you are stuck in a biological feedback loop, stimulating your ancient fight or flight response while lying in a comfortable bed. You are not lazy. You are a caveman looking for predators in a digital jungle that never sleeps. Or think about toxic relationships. This is the classic hero's problem. You know this person is bad for you. Your friends tell you. Your logic tells you. But you cannot leave. Why? Because of the social brain and the phenomenon of intermittent reinforcement. If you get love bombing followed by withdrawal, it triggers the scarcity principle in your mind. We value things more when they are rare or threatened. When that person pulls away, your ancient brain interprets it as a resource scarcity threat. Panics. It thinks you are losing status in the tribe or losing a vital survival resource. Then, when they give you a crumb of attention, your brain floods with dopamine, the reward chemical. This creates a chemical addiction stronger than some drugs. You stay because your survival brain thinks leaving is dangerous, and your meaning-making brain has convinced you that if you just try harder, you can fix the story. You are not stupid for staying. You are chemically handcuffed by your own biology. This brings us to the most important pivot of your life. You have to stop judging yourself for these behaviors. You have to stop calling yourself broken. You are not broken. You are functioning exactly as you were designed to function. You are a biological machine that is successfully executing its factory settings. The problem is not you. The problem is that you are operating on default mode. You are letting the survival brain, the social brain, and the meaning-making brain run the show from the subconscious shadows. Most people live their entire lives in this default mode. They react. They get triggered. They follow the herd. They let the 7-second delay dictate their destiny. They are NPCs. But you are here because you want to be the player. You want to pick up the controller. And the only way to do that is to root the system. You have to become the hacker of your own mind. We have to move from being reactive biological bots to being strategic psychological operators. This starts with awareness. You have to catch the puppet masters in the act. When you feel that urge to doom scroll, you have to label it. You say, "Oh, that is my survival brain looking for lions. Thank you, survival brain, but I am safe in my bed." When you feel that crushing need to buy the expensive watch or agree with the group when you know they are wrong, you label it. "That is my social brain terrified of being exiled." When you start spiraling because of a text message, you label it. "That is my meaning-making brain trying to write a tragedy because it hates uncertainty." This creates a pause. It interrupts the 7-second delay. It gives your conscious, rational mind a tiny window to step in and say, "Wait a minute. I am not on the savannah. I am not going to die. I can choose a different action." This is not about fighting your biology. You cannot fight millions of years of evolution. It is about understanding the code so you can rewrite the script. You are not a victim of your wiring. You are the architect of it. But you can only renovate a house once you turn on the lights and see the foundation. Now that we have exposed the glitch, now that we have identified the caveman.exe error and met the puppet masters, we have to look at the tools they use against us. We need to talk about the 6 invisible forces from the source material, things like reciprocity, consistency, and likability, that hackers and marketers use to trigger these brain responses on purpose. Because once you see how easily your factory settings can be manipulated by others, you will never want to operate on autopilot again. You are going to learn how to put up a firewall. You are going to learn how to rewrite the code. Let us go deeper. Which club is better? Your brain just screamed that the second club is the place to be. But here is the glitch. The club with the line might be empty inside. The owners are holding the line outside artificially to hack your brain. You just got played by the human matrix. Welcome to the invisible game level where logic goes to die. We like to tell ourselves we are rational agents piloting our own lives. We think we choose our coffee based on the beans or our shoes based on the arch support. But neuroscience just handed us a massive reality check that suggests we are actually just biological machines running ancient software that hasn't been updated in 50,000 years. Research shows your emotional brain creates a decision up to 7 seconds before your conscious mind even knows you have made a choice. That means for 7 full seconds you are operating on autopilot while your conscious mind is just sitting there waiting to create a logical excuse for a decision that was already made for you. To master this game, you need to understand the source code. In the academic world, they call these the 6 principles of influence. But let's call them what they really are. They are glitches in the human operating system. If you know the cheat codes, you can bypass the firewall of the human mind. If you don't know them, you are just an NPC in someone else's simulation. Today, we are breaking down the 3 biggest glitches that marketers, politicians, and master negotiators use to hack your behavior every single day. First up is the glitch formerly known as social proof, but we are rebranding this the herd algorithm. This is the most powerful line of code in your entire mental programming. Human beings are biologically terrified of uncertainty. When we don't know what to do, our brain doesn't look for facts. It scans the environment to see what the rest of the tribe is doing. This isn't just about peer pressure. It is about survival. For our ancestors, being wrong meant being dead. If the whole tribe started running and you paused to logically analyze whether there was actually a lion, you got eaten. So we evolved a mental shortcut that says if everyone else is doing it, it must be safe. This is why that fake line outside the nightclub works. Your brain sees the crowd and assumes there is value there without ever seeing the inside. It explains why sitcoms use laugh tracks. Even when you know the laughter is fake, your brain hears it and automatically tags the joke as funny. The herd algorithm explains why you are more likely to put $1 in a tip jar that is already stuffed with cash than an empty one. The smart barista knows that seating the jar hacks your brain into compliance. It is not logic. It is the safety of the herd. When you tell someone that thousands of people have already made the same decision you are asking them to make, you are silencing their critical thinking. You are telling their survival brain that the water is fine and the tribe is moving in this direction. Now let's look at the second major glitch. The academic books call this scarcity, but we know it as the FOMO threat. This one is nasty because it shuts down your frontal cortex entirely. When something is perceived as rare or limited or about to be taken away, your brain stops processing it as an opportunity and starts processing it as a threat. We are hardwired to be more afraid of losing something than we are excited about gaining something. Losing resources meant death in the wild, so your brain treats a limited time offer like a physical emergency. Think about the last time you were booking a flight and you saw that little red text that said only 2 seats left at this price. Did your heart rate go up? Did you suddenly feel like you had to buy it right now even if you weren't sure about the dates? That is the FOMO threat hijacking your logic. You stopped thinking about whether you could afford the trip and started panicking about losing the seat. Marketing masters use this everywhere. Limited drops for streetwear, countdown timers on sales pages, exclusive access that requires an invite code. They are artificially restricting supply to trigger a fight or flight response in your wallet. The fascinating thing is that the object doesn't even have to be valuable. It just has to be scarce. In one famous study, people rated a cookie as tasting significantly better when it was taken from a jar with only 2 cookies compared to a jar with 10 cookies. It was the exact same cookie. The scarcity literally changed the sensory perception of the taste. When you create genuine scarcity around your time or your availability or your ideas, you instantly increase their perceived value. You are telling the world that you are a limited resource and the human brain cannot resist a limited resource. The third glitch is the most insidious of them all. Psychologists call it reciprocity, but you should think of it as the debt trap. Humans have a deep psychological need to balance the books. When someone gives you something or does something for you, your brain creates a feeling of tension. It feels like an open loop that can only be closed by giving something back. This happens even if you didn't ask for the favor, even if you don't even like the person who gave it to you. This is why the lady at the grocery store hands you a free sample of cheese. She isn't feeding you because she loves you. She is handing you a pair of psychological handcuffs. You eat the cheese and suddenly you feel a low-level guilt. You feel obligated. You end up buying a block of cheese you didn't want just to resolve the internal tension of the debt. The debt trap explains why charities send you those free address labels in the mail. It explains why smart negotiators give you a small concession early in the meeting. They are making a deposit in your psychological bank account, knowing that you will feel compelled to make a withdrawal later to pay them back. The scariest part about the debt trap is that the payback is often much bigger than the initial gift. People will agree to massive requests just to clear the debt of a small favor. If you want to use this ethically, you have to give value first without asking for anything. You have to create the debt before you send the invoice. When you help someone solve a problem or give them genuine insight, you are hacking their reciprocity instinct. They will look for ways to pay you back, not because you force them, but because their own brain won't let them rest until the score is settled. Now I want to test your new vision. We are going to play a rapid-fire game I call Spot the Glitch. I am going to describe a scenario and I want you to instantly identify which of these 3 forces is being exploited. Do not overthink it. Just trust your gut. Picture this. You are browsing a website for a hotel. You see a pop-up that says 20 other people are looking at this room right now. What is it? That is the herd algorithm mixed with a little fear of missing out. They are using the presence of others to validate the value and the competition to trigger the scarcity panic. Next scenario. You are at a car dealership. The salesman says he has to go check with his manager to see if he can get you a lower price. He comes back and says he fought hard for you and got $50 knocked off. Now he asks you to sign the paperwork. What is it? That is the debt trap. He did you a favor by fighting the manager, so now you feel obligated to do him a favor by signing the deal. Last one. You see a brand launching a new sneaker. but they are only releasing it at a random time that they will announce on their Instagram story. What is it? That is pure fear of missing out threat. They are weaponizing uncertainty and time pressure to make you glued to their feed. They are turning a shoe purchase into a survival hunt. These glitches are everywhere. Once you see them, you cannot unsee them. You will start noticing that your entire reality is constructed out of these psychological triggers. The news you watch, the apps you scroll, the arguments you have with your spouse, they are all running on these invisible scripts. But here is the danger. Knowing the codes is not enough. You have to know how to defend against them. The defense against the herd algorithm is to pause and ask if the crowd is actually running toward safety or just running off a cliff. The defense against the fear of missing out threat is the 24-hour rule. If someone says you have to decide now, the answer is always no. Real opportunity does not expire in 5 minutes. The defense against the debt trap is to realize that a business transaction is not a friendship. You do not owe anyone anything for a gift you did not ask for. There are 3 more invisible forces that complete the matrix. We haven't even talked about how authority bypasses your critical thinking, or how consistency locks you into bad decisions for years, or how likability is engineered to make you say yes. But understanding the first 3 is your first step toward unplugging. You are no longer just reacting to the world. You are watching the code scroll down the screen. You are seeing the puppet strings. Most people prefer to sleep. They like the comfortable illusion that they are in control. They want to believe that they bought the car because it has good gas mileage and not because the salesman triggered their status anxiety and their scarcity fears. But you are not most people. You are here because you want to see how the machine actually works. You want to master the unseen forces of human behavior. The question is, now that you have the cheat codes, what are you going to do with them? Are you going to use them to protect yourself from the noise? Are you going to use them to build influence and move people toward better outcomes? Or are you just going to go back to standing in the fake line outside the empty club waiting for something that isn't there? The choice is yours. But remember, in the game of human psychology, you are either the player or you are the played. There is no spectator mode. You are about to unlock a superpower that feels illegal to possess. Most people walk through life completely blind to the reality happening right in front of their faces. They are obsessed with words. They listen to what people say, they analyze the scripts, and they get played every single time because words are the easiest thing in the world to fake. The conscious mind controls words. You can practice a speech. You can rehearse a lie. You can type out a text message that makes you sound cooler or smarter or calmer than you actually are. But here is the truth that is going to change the entire way you navigate your existence. The real conversation is never happening with words. The real conversation is happening through a hidden code of biology and psychology that 99% of the population never learned to read. We are talking about X-ray vision, not the comic book kind where you see through walls, but the psychological kind where you see through the masks people wear to survive. You need to understand that humans are not logical creatures. We are biological machines running ancient software designed for a world that no longer exists. When you are talking to your boss or your date or that car salesman, you are not just talking to a person. You are interacting with a nervous system that is constantly leaking information about its true internal state. The source material I have analyzed proves that while the conscious mind focuses on the story, the unconscious mind is screaming the truth through micro-expressions, body positioning, and vocal tonality. If you only listen to the words, you are missing half the movie. Actually, you are missing the only part of the movie that matters. Today, we are going to install 4 specific upgrades to your perception that will let you read that hidden code. This is not about being creepy or manipulative. This is about skill acquisition and status signaling. It is about moving from being a player who reacts to the game to being the game master who sees the board for what it really is. Let's start with the first upgrade, which I call the muted movie technique. You know how when you watch a foreign film without subtitles, you actually pay way more attention to the emotions on the actors' faces because you are not distracted by the dialogue. That is exactly how you need to start observing the people around you. The human face is a masterpiece of biological engineering. It contains over 40 distinct muscle groups that can combine to create thousands of possible expressions. Now here is the catch. Most of these expressions happen so fast that they bypass conscious awareness entirely. We call them micro-expressions. These are flashes of raw, unfiltered emotion that last for maybe 1/10 of a second. That is faster than a blink of an eye. But in that split second, the truth leaks out. Imagine you are pitching an idea to a client or telling a story to a group of friends. You are watching their faces. They might be nodding and smiling and saying all the right things. They might say that is interesting or I love that idea. But for a fraction of a second, you see a flash of tension around the eyes. You see the lip corner pull back just a millimeter. You see the nose crinkle slightly. That is the micro-expression. It might be contempt. It might be disgust. It might be fear. And then, just as quickly as it appeared, it is gone, replaced by the polite social mask. If you were listening to the words, you heard approval. But if you were watching the muted movie, you saw the objection before they even verbalized it. This gives you a massive tactical advantage. When you see that flash of doubt, you can address it immediately. You can say, hey, I get that this part seems risky. You stop the objection before it becomes a rejection. You are responding to their reality, not their performance. The neuroscience here is airtight. These expressions are universal. It does not matter if you are in New York or Tokyo or London. Happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, and disgust look the same on every human face because they are hardwired into our biology. The conscious mind is too slow to control them. By the time the person realizes they have shown disgust, the micro-expression has already happened. It is a data leak, and once you start looking for it, you will see it everywhere. You will see the flash of anger in a partner who says they are fine. You will see the spark of excitement in a negotiator who is pretending to be uninterested. The muted movie technique is about turning down the volume on the world so you can finally see the picture clearly. Now let's move down the body to the second upgrade. This is one of the most reliable hacks in the entire playbook because almost nobody thinks to control it. We call this the feet do not lie hack. Most people know they need to control their face. We grow up hearing watch your face or smile for the camera. We learn to fake interest with eye contact and nodding. We even learn to control our hands to look confident. But nobody ever tells you to watch your feet. Because the feet are the furthest body part from the brain, they are the least censored channel of communication. They are directly connected to your survival brain, the ancient limbic system that is obsessed with one thing and one thing only: survival. In the wild, if you saw a threat, your feet needed to react instantly to run away. If you saw something you wanted, like food or a mate, your feet needed to orient toward it to close the distance. That biological programming is still running in the background of every modern interaction. When you are talking to someone, look at their feet. It is that simple. If their torso is facing you and they are smiling and nodding, but their feet are pointed toward the exit, the conversation is over. Their brain has already decided to leave. They are physically present, but psychologically they have already checked out. They are in flight mode. If you keep talking when the feet are pointing at the door, you are lowering your status. You are becoming the person who cannot take a hint. On the flip side, this is a powerful indicator of attraction and genuine interest. If you walk into a group of people and you want to know who is really the leader or who is secretly hooking up with who, do not look at who is talking. Look at where the feet are pointing. We naturally point our feet toward the person we value the most or the person we feel most connected to. It is a gravitational pull of the survival brain. Even if two people are sitting across the room from each other, you will often see their feet pointing toward one another like compass needles. This is not something people do on purpose. It is instinct. When you master the feet do not lie hack, you stop wasting time on people who want to leave and you start recognizing where the real attention and power in the room is flowing. You become efficient. You become sharp. You stop forcing interactions and start reading the current so you can swim with it. The third upgrade is about sound. But again, not the words. We are talking about a vocal tonality audit. The human voice is an instrument, and like any instrument, it can be played well or it can be played poorly. But more importantly, the way the instrument is played reveals the internal pressure of the player. When you are nervous, your muscles tighten. That includes the vocal cords. Tight vocal cords vibrate faster, which creates a higher pitch. When you are relaxed and confident, your body expands, your breathing deepens, and your vocal cords loosen. This creates a deeper, slower, more resonant sound. Here is the specific pattern you need to audit in yourself and others. It is the difference between seeking approval and commanding authority. There is a vocal pattern called uptalk. You have definitely heard it. It is when someone ends a declarative sentence with a rising inflection, making it sound like a question. They say, "My name is John," with a question mark at the end. Or, "I think we should do this strategy." This is the sound of submission. It is the sound of the social brain asking for permission to speak. It signals uncertainty. It signals that you are scanning the room to see if it is safe to have an opinion. If you do this, you are killing your status before you even finish your sentence. The opposite is the downtalk command. This is where the inflection goes down at the end of the sentence. It signals finality. It signals certainty. When a judge delivers a verdict, they do not use uptalk. They use a downward inflection. It is done. When you want to signal authority, you need to audit your own voice. Drop the pitch at the end of the sentence. Do not ask for validation. State the fact. But you also use this to read others. When someone is pitching you something and their voice keeps going up at the end of sentences, they do not believe in what they are selling. They are nervous. They are hiding something, or they feel out of their depth. When someone speaks with a slow, low, downward inflection, they are operating from a place of psychological safety. They are not in fight or flight. They are in control. The source material highlights that vocal tonality carries exponentially more data than the words themselves. If someone says they are confident, but their voice is tight, high-pitched, and rushing, the voice is telling the truth and the words are lying. If someone says they are angry, but their voice is slow, controlled, and low, that is not just anger. That is dangerous, calculated resolve. You need to start listening to the music, not just the lyrics. The music tells you the emotional context. The lyrics are just the logical justification. Finally, we arrive at the fourth upgrade, which is your portable lie detector. This is about spotting the distance in body language. The source document makes a critical point about deception. Deception takes work. It is cognitively expensive. Your brain has to invent a reality that does not exist and then maintain it while suppressing the truth. This creates stress. And the human body has a very specific reaction to the source of stress. It wants to create distance. When someone is being deceptive or hiding something, their body will naturally try to block or distance itself from the person they are lying to. You see this in the lean. When people are comfortable and telling the truth, they lean in. They occupy the space. They bridge the gap. When people start lying, they lean back. They create physical separation. But it gets more subtle than that. Watch for the barriers. A person might suddenly cross their arms across their chest. They might place a coffee cup or a phone on the table directly between you and them. They are unconsciously building a wall. They are fortifying their position because they feel under attack or they feel the guilt of the deception. Another major signal of this distance is the hands. When we are truthful and open, our palms tend to be visible. Our gestures are open and expansive. When we are deceptive, we start to hide our hands. We put them in pockets. We put them under the table. Or we use them for self-soothing behaviors. This is a huge tell. When the brain is under stress from lying, it tries to comfort itself. You will see people touching their neck, rubbing their face, playing with a necklace, or stroking their hair. These are pacifying behaviors. The brain is literally trying to calm the nervous system down because it knows it is doing something risky. If you ask someone a direct question and they immediately lean back, cross their arms, and touch their neck before answering, the alarm bells in your head should be ringing at maximum volume. It does not matter how smooth their answer sounds. Their body just screamed that they are uncomfortable and trying to protect themselves. The distance is the tell. The block is the tell. The body never lies because the body is trying to survive the interaction, not win a debate. Now, why does all of this matter? Why should you care about microexpressions, feet direction, and vocal tonality? Because we are living in an economy of attention and status. If you are walking around like a non-player character, just reacting to the surface-level dialogue, you are being programmed by everyone around you. You are buying things you do not need because a salesperson used authority cues. You are staying in bad relationships because you are listening to promises instead of watching behavior. You are losing negotiations because you cannot see when the other side is bluffing. When you master these 4 unseen forces, you flip the script. You stop being the effect and you start being the cause. You become the person who makes others feel understood without them having to say a word. That is a rare and valuable status signal. When you can say to someone, "You look like you have a concern about that. Let us talk about it." Before they even raise their hand, you look like a genius. You look like a leader. You look like someone who is operating on a higher frequency than everyone else. And the truth is, you are. This is about edutainment, but it is also about survival in the modern jungle. The threats today are not tigers and bears. The threats are manipulation, deceit, and social maneuvering. The tools I have given you are your defense system. They are your radar, but they are also your connection system. Because when you can truly read someone, when you can see the fear behind the arrogance or the sadness behind the anger, you can connect with them in a way that feels like magic. You can bypass the defenses and talk to the real human being hiding behind the mask. So here is your mission. For the next 24 hours, I want you to go on a muted movie diet. Stop obsessing over the words. Watch the faces. Watch the feet. Listen to the music of the voice. Look for the barriers and the distance. Start collecting the data that everyone else is ignoring. You are going to realize that the world is shouting secrets at you all day long. You just needed to learn the language. Welcome to the real game. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. And trust me, you would not want to. Let us get real for a second because I need you to understand the game that is currently being played against you. Right now, at this very moment, you are being hunted. I do not mean by a predator in the bushes. I mean by marketers, toxic bosses, manipulative partners, and social algorithms that know your brain chemistry better than you do. They are exploiting glitches in your operating system that were installed thousands of years ago for survival, not for navigating a high-pressure sales funnel or a toxic relationship. If you feel like you are constantly reacting, constantly stressed, or constantly wondering why you did things you did not actually want to do, it is because you are sleepwalking through a battlefield. The source material we have been looking at calls this mental manipulation, but let us call it what it really is. It is the dark arts of human psychology. And today we are going to teach you the defense against the dark arts. We are going to install 4 specific psychological firewalls that will stop you from being played, manipulated, and drained. We have to start with the most common weapon in the manipulator's arsenal, which is artificial urgency. You know exactly what this feels like. You are on a website or talking to a salesperson and suddenly the temperature rises. They tell you this offer expires tonight. They tell you there are only 2 spots left. They tell you that if you do not act right now, this opportunity will vanish forever. Your heart starts racing and your palms get sweaty. That is not an accident. That is biology. The source document explains exactly what is happening here. They are hacking your survival brain to bypass your rational prefrontal cortex. When you feel that pressure, your brain interprets it as a physical threat, like a saber-toothed tiger chasing you. You stop thinking about long-term consequences and you start thinking about immediate survival. You prioritize speed over accuracy. The manipulator knows that if they give you time to think, their spell breaks. Real opportunities do not disappear because you took a night to sleep on them. Manipulative opportunities are designed to evaporate under scrutiny. Here is your defense. It is called the 24-hour firewall. This is non-negotiable. Whenever someone pressures you to make an immediate decision involving money, commitment, or a major life change, you automatically trigger a mandatory waiting period. You simply say, "I have a personal policy that I never make decisions like this without 24 hours to process." Watch their reaction. A professional will respect that boundary. A manipulator will panic. They will ramp up the pressure. They will try to make you feel stupid or guilty for waiting. The source text calls this the defense against artificial urgency. If they cannot wait 24 hours for your money or your yes, then they do not deserve it. You are not missing out on an opportunity. You are dodging a bullet. Now let us pivot to something more insidious because it targets your heart, not just your wallet. we need to talk about love bombing. This is the weapon of choice for narcissists and toxic partners, and it feels amazing until it destroys you. Love bombing is when someone overwhelms you with excessive attention, affection, and promises very early in a relationship. They text you constantly. They say you are their soulmate after 2 dates. They buy you gifts. Feels like a movie, but it is actually a setup. The source material explains that this creates an addiction cycle. They are flooding your brain with dopamine, getting you hooked on their validation. And then, once you are addicted, they pull away. They become cold, distant, or critical. Suddenly, you are desperate to get that high back. You will do anything, tolerate anything, just to feel that warmth again. You need to learn the difference between a connection and a trap. The defense here is recognizing that genuine affection develops gradually. Real intimacy is a slow burn, not an explosion. If someone's attention feels too intense too quickly, that is a red flag, not a compliment. The text specifically warns that if behavior fluctuates dramatically between extremely positive and extremely negative, you are not in a passionate romance, you are in a manipulation cycle. Stop looking at the highs and look at the consistency. If they treat you like a god on Monday and a nuisance on Thursday, run. The third threat is the one that makes you question your own sanity, and that is gaslighting. This is where a manipulator denies your reality. They tell you that you are remembering things wrong. They say, "I never said that," or "You are being too sensitive," or "That never happened." They gradually erode your confidence in your own perception until you become dependent on them to tell you what is real. It is psychological warfare, and the goal is to make you surrender your own judgment. The source material offers a concrete solution called the anti-gaslight protocol. You need to become an accountant of your own reality. You must keep a reality log. When you are dealing with someone who has a pattern of twisting the truth, you start writing things down. Keep a journal of conversations, promises, and events. Screenshot texts. Save emails. When they try to rewrite history, you do not argue with them. You check your log. You trust your own data over their narrative. The source text is explicit about this. You must trust your own perceptions unless presented with clear evidence to the contrary. Do not engage in debates about your memories. The moment you start defending your reality, you are playing their game. You state what happened, you look at your log, and you disengage. Facts are your shield. This brings us to the final and perhaps most powerful defense mechanism. Especially when dealing with toxic authority figures or people you cannot simply cut out of your life, like a co-parent or a boss. We call this the gray rock method. The source text talks about emotional regulation and refusing to engage in competitive dynamics, and that is exactly what this is. Manipulators, especially narcissistic ones, feed on your emotional reaction. They want your anger, they want your tears, they want your defense. It makes them feel powerful. They are vampires, and your emotion is the blood. To defeat them, you must become a gray rock. You become uninteresting. You become boring. You become impenetrable. When they try to provoke you, you give them nothing. No anger, no fear, no drama. You respond with short, neutral answers. Okay, I see. That is interesting. You do not explain yourself. You do not justify your actions. You do not defend your character. You starve them of the emotional fuel they are desperate for. The source material describes this as withdrawing from the game. When you refuse to play the role of the victim or the combatant, the manipulator loses their power. They will eventually get bored and move on to an easier target. Understanding these 4 defenses changes everything. It flips the dynamic. You are no longer the NPC in someone else's video game. You are the player. When you see artificial urgency, you deploy your firewall. When you feel the rush of love bombing, you check the speed limit. When you sense gaslighting, you consult your reality log. And when you face a toxic provoker, you become a gray rock. The source text tells us that awareness is the first step toward freedom. Most people are walking around unconscious, letting their survival instincts run the show. But now you have the codes. You can see the matrix. You understand that these are not random behaviors. They are predictable patterns. And because they are predictable, they are preventable. Do not let anyone rush you, confuse you, or drain you. Defend your mind. Defend your peace. And never, ever let them play you again. Listen to me closely because we are done with the theory. We have spent this entire time dissecting the invisible wires that pull the strings of human behavior, looking at the science, the neurochemistry, and the evolutionary baggage that keeps most people sleepwalking through their lives. You know about the 6 invisible forces now. You know about the micro-expressions and the vocal tonality. You know that logic is usually just a fancy costume your brain wears to justify emotional decisions it already made 7 seconds ago. But information alone does not change your life. Information without execution is just mental hoarding. You can memorize every single psychological trigger we have discussed, but if you do not rewrite the code running in your own mind, you are just a smarter NPC in someone else's simulation. It is time to go from passive observer to active architect. This is the moment where we stop looking at the blueprint and we pick up the hammer. I am going to give you the specific 7-day protocol to install these upgrades directly into your neural pathways. This is not about trying harder. This is not about motivation. This is about neuroplasticity. We are going to physically rewire the way your brain processes reality. We call this the main character upgrade. Over the next week, you are going to systematically dismantle the automated response systems that have been controlling you since you were a child and replace them with conscious strategic choices. For the first 3 days, we are going to focus entirely on pattern recognition. You cannot change what you cannot see. Most people think they are thinking, but they are actually just running old scripts. Remember the 3 hidden psychological systems we talked about? The survival brain, the social brain, and the meaning-making brain. Your mission for days 1 through 3 is simply to catch them in the act. You are going to be a spy in your own mind. You need to catch your survival brain hijacking your nervous system when something trivial happens. I want you to notice when you get that spike of cortisol, that tight feeling in your chest when you get a passive-aggressive email or someone cuts you off in traffic. That is your ancient biology treating a minor annoyance like a saber-toothed tiger. Do not fix it yet. Just see it. Say to yourself, that is the survival brain trying to keep me safe from a threat that does not exist. Then you are going to catch your social brain desperate for validation. Watch what happens when you are in a group conversation and you feel that urge to agree with something you actually think is stupid just so you don't rock the boat. Watch your thumb hover over the like button or check your notifications for the 10th time in an hour. That is not you. That is your tribal programming terrified of being exiled into the wilderness. Catch it. Call it out. Watch your meaning-making brain spinning wild hallucinations. When someone doesn't text you back instantly and your brain starts whispering that they hate you, or that you said something wrong, or that you are going to die alone. Stop. Look at that narrative. Recognize that your brain cannot handle uncertainty, so it is inventing a horror story to fill the gap. For 3 days, you are just watching the machinery work. You are separating the user from the operating system. Once you can see the code, days 4, 5, and 6 are about interrupting the program. We call this the pause protocol. This is where we exploit that 7-second gap neuroscience revealed. Remember, your emotional brain decides seconds before you are even conscious of it. But now that you are watching, you can jam a wrench in the gears. When you feel that physiological signature of a reaction coming on, you are going to execute a hard reset. We talked about how emotions have physical signatures. Anger tightens the jaw and speeds up the heart. Fear makes the breathing shallow. The moment you feel that physical shift, you hit the pause button. You are going to use the breathing technique we discussed to hijack your parasympathetic nervous system. You are going to inhale for 4 seconds and exhale for 8. This is not spiritual woo-woo. This is biological mechanics. A long exhale physically forces your heart rate to slow down. It sends a signal up the vagus nerve telling your brain that the tiger is gone. In that moment of calm, you reclaim your cognitive flexibility. You step out of the automatic reaction loop and you ask yourself a single strategic question. Is this reaction serving my actual goals? Or is it just satisfying an ancient impulse? You are going to find that 90% of the time, your default reaction is trying to save you from a danger that is not real or win a game that does not matter. During these 3 days, you do not react to anything instantly. You do not send the angry text. You do not say yes to the commitment out of guilt. You use the 24-hour rule we covered. You create space. You become the gap between stimulus and response. That gap is where your freedom lives. Then we arrive at day 7. This is the neural rewrite. This is the identity shift. All the habit psychology we discussed, all the behavioral change mechanisms, they all hinge on one thing: identity alignment. Most people try to change by saying, I want to be the kind of person who is confident. Or I want to stop being a pushover. That is weak code. The word want implies lack. It implies you are not that thing yet. Your brain rejects it because it contradicts your current self-image. On day 7, we move from wanting to being. We are using the concept of cognitive consistency. Humans have a deep need to be consistent with their identity. If you believe you are a healthy person, you eat the salad not because you are forcing yourself, but because that is just what people like you do. You are going to sit down and write out your new operating parameters, not as goals, but as statements of fact. You do not write, I will try to be more observant. You write, I am a strategist who sees the hidden game. You do not write, I hope people respect me. You write, I am a leader who commands respect through competence and calm. You are going to leverage the reticular activating system in your brain. Once you define this new identity, your brain will start scanning your environment for evidence that proves it true. It creates a self-reinforcing feedback loop. Every time you pause before reacting, you are proving the new identity is real. Every time you spot a manipulation attempt and sidestep it, you are cementing this new reality. This is not a one-time event. This is a system installation. You are building the mental firewall that protects you from the manipulation tactics we studied. You are installing the emotional granularity that lets you use your feelings as tools rather than being used by them. You are developing the status signals that naturally draw respect without you having to beg for it. Think about the power of what you now possess. You know how to read the hidden language of body mechanics. You know how to spot the narcissists and the gaslighters before they can sink their hooks in. You know how to structure your communication so it slides past people's defenses and plants ideas in their minds like seeds. But here is the danger. It is very easy to listen to this, feel a rush of intellectual superiority, and then go right back to scrolling, right back to reacting, right back to sleep. The gravitational pull of your old patterns is strong. Your synaptic pathways are deep grooves worn down by years of repetition. Climbing out of them takes force. It takes the kind of mental fortitude we talked about in the resilience chapter. It means accepting that for a while it is going to feel weird. It is going to feel like you are acting. That is good. That means you are stretching the plastic of your neuroplasticity. You are forging new roads through the jungle of your mind. You have to understand that the world is designed to keep you reactive. The entire attention economy, the social media algorithms, the 24-hour news cycle, they are all weaponized psychology designed to keep your survival brain terrified and your social brain insecure. They want you clicking, buying, and fearing. They do not want you pausing. They do not want you thinking. They certainly do not want you rewriting your own code. By taking this path, you are rebelling against the modern world's primary business model. You are going off-grid psychologically. So here we are at the crossroads. We have reached the end of the transmission. You have two choices, and I need you to be very clear about which one you are making right now. Choice 1 is easy. You can close this video. You can tell yourself that was interesting. You can go back to your day, back to your old loops, back to letting your amygdala drive the bus while you sit in the passenger seat wondering why your life feels out of control. You can go back to sleep, or you can make choice 2. You can subscribe to this channel, which is your commitment to the long game. You can take the protocol I just gave you and install the update. You can wake up tomorrow morning and start watching your mind like a hawk. You can step into the driver's seat. The simulation is yours to control, but only if you take the wheel. I'll see you in the next level.